What a wonderful practice we have here, isn't it? Yeah. The Jukai ceremony is, maybe the most moving ceremony in our whole tradition. When we have the birth of a baby Buddha, which will never die, and that goes on beyond the passing of the physical body, and lives as long as the intention lives, as long as the vow lives. Through I'm not sure what incarnations, dimensions. I don't know, but persists in greater and greater, levels of consciousness and awareness. So we are in the final, literally 24 hours of our Ango. Many of us have been practicing very intently for 90 days. We started in the middle to end of September. So let's all make them of our final. It's very important to make this practice our own, right? A few days ago, we normally celebrate the awakening of the Buddha on December 8th, which was on Monday. I think. Yeah, Monday. It's the day that we normally celebrate that. And it's like common to has now been and put out as an aspiration, for us to practice. But what we come to see in Zen practice is that awakening is alive right now. And it's up to each of us to really bring that to full recognition, to full consciousness. Dogen said, we don't practice in order to become Buddhas. So, the word Buddha means awakened one. So we don't practice to become awakened. That might go against like a primary belief that we all bring into practice. I want to practice in order to become awakened. Dogen and Maizumi Rishi and I, say, we actually aren't practicing in order to become Buddhas. We practice because we are Buddhas. So this practice is what awakenedness, or what awakened beings do. Yeah, just kind of take that in, okay? This is what awakened beings do. Practice zazen. Attempt to live by precepts. Reflect on the karma that we're creating. Strive to create better karma. It's awakeness itself which does these things. I'm very, very just encouraged by our sangha, this sangha, Ian Zen Sangha. Every year it's been deepening and growing, slowly, but really, truly. And right now, this moment, the end of this very strong Ango period, strong commitment, strong practice, strong love and respect for each other is something I'm really proud of in this sangha. I've been in several other sanghas, and living together in sangha is hard. It's like marriage in some ways. Marriage is hard. I've only been married for 5.5 years, less. And I know why I stayed away from it for so long. Yeah, it's like, to live so closely with someone, it's like you absolutely get triggered with your stuff. People aren't the way you want them to be. As loving as you are towards someone, as much as you love them, you're guaranteed to rub you the wrong way. And to have your reactivity, and then to have their reactivity to you, and you have your reactivity to their reactivity, right? And anybody who's married, and most of us are or have been, recognize this. In that type of reactivity, I go like this. The triggering back and forth happens in like seconds. 6 levels up. Those of us who aspire to be in conscious relationship, right? It's like, okay, let's bear witness and like do some needs reflection on like what you need and what I needed. And it's like, but do we have to walk our way all the way back through all of those exchanges? And sometimes, that's actually really valuable. And exhausting.
It can take years.
And it can take years. Yeah. Yeah. But why do we do it, right? Because, awakeness recognizes that, being in the world that way, being in a relationship in that way, is it's very diluted. It's got a very delusive quality to it, that around our separation, it doesn't really recognize, how we're creating our own experience and how we're contributing to another's experience. Yeah, and it without that recognition, without our work, these 3 poisons, that Buddha talked about, which are really the 3 forms of attachment: greed, hatred, and ignorance. Greed, anger, and ignorance, which has to do with craving, aversion, and ignorance, or turning away. It's just kind of part of our humanity. It's part of our makeup, the way our egos have been constructed. Cats and dogs don't have these things, but somewhere back there, I don't know, 300,000 years ago, or maybe further back, Seiju knows better the developmental psychology part of this. So whether it's 300,000 years or more, these kind of neocortical structures that filtering our experience have these habit patterns that we call toxins, kind of baked into them. So it's part of the DNA of our psychologies, you could say, to extend that analogy and that metaphor from my talk earlier. Part of the DNA of our psychologies, to have, these tendencies: craving, aversion, and ignorance. But it's part of the DNA of the awakened being. We had 2 baby Buddhas born 2 hours ago. Part of the spiritual DNA of those awakening beings. To live according to precepts and to practice the precepts. So we do it because that's who we are. Yeah. So we have the wonderful, part in right at the beginning of the Jukai ceremony where we say, being one with the Buddha, being one with the Sangha, being one with the Dharma, being one with the Sangha. That means I am the Buddha. I am the Dharma. I am the Sangha. When we study the precepts, we and the 16 steps. Pure precepts, which is evil, do good for others, or in the peacemaker expression is not knowing, bearing witness, and then loving action. Okay, those are the same, and just different expressions. So we understand these three pure precepts as the order of harmony in the universe. Okay, that's a description of, you could say, the laws of the universe. Not doing evil, doing good for others. Yeah, another expression, and this comes, I believe, it comes from my lineage. It's my Zumi Roshi or Bernie Glassman. The three pure precepts describe how the awakened life manifests, or the order of harmony in the universe, how the awakened life manifests. So we're all Buddhas. We're all awakened. Awakening is probably a better word. We're awake beings awakening. Is how the awakened being fed. Freudian slip. As not doing evil, as doing good for others, as not knowing, as bearing witness, as loving action. So in some ways it's not, it's simple, isn't it? It's simple. We overcomplicate these things. We do. This is what an awakened being does. This is how we as awakened beings manifest in our life. Then we get, let's see, so that's the order of harmony in the universe. That's how the awakened life manifests, the three pure precepts. The three treasures identify us, who we are. Okay, and I just talked about that. Buddha, Dharma, and Sangha, being one with the Buddha as the Buddha, being one with the Dharma as the Dharma, being one with the Sangha as the Sangha. Okay, no separation. Maybe as, American converts to Buddhism, this feels weird. Even these are Sanskrit words, so there can be a little alienating or distancing quality to them. But I think in a way that's a good thing, because I think, maybe if we were to be born into a belief system, the way Christianity was for me, Catholicism was for me, which was, I wasn't able to kind of get to the deep inner truth of Jesus's teachings, I would say, with the way, I'll blame myself. I'll just put it on myself. So we might have been able to sort of say those things without really understanding them. But here it has this kind of strangeness to it. What? How? Really? Am I? How can I be Buddha? How can I be the teachings? How can I be the Sangha? It really sparks a curiosity. And it takes that because it's a very non-normative consciousness, that we're called upon to awaken in this practice. To really see that. This is who I am. And then we have the 10 grave precepts, which we went through earlier today. And this is the how. This is the how. So we have you could say it's the what, which is what the universe is about, what the awakened life is about. Then we have the who. Who am I? I am Buddha, Dharma, and Sangha. And then we get the how. And the 10 grave precepts are the how. How we practice the three pure precepts. How we practice the awakened life. How we practice the order of harmony in the universe. It's very simple, actually. It's very, I want to say helpful, but it's like it's more than helpful. It's essential. How do I do this? How do I do this? A little bit ago, one of you mentioned that there's a lot of discussion right now around AI, how AI is going to challenge our ethical beliefs, right? Our ethical practices. And I actually look at this in a very positive way. I think it's actually making us aware of how important it is to have ethical guidelines and practices, which I don't think there's great acknowledgement of or recognition of. Right? How many people do you know took vows like we just had this morning that many of us have taken? How many people do you know have formally, really, from a mature adult consciousness, taken on a commitment to precepts like that, to ethical conduct? I don't know any outside of my sangha and outside of the practitioners that I think. Well, I'm not saying they don't exist. I know they do in other faith traditions as well. But I think we live in a very sort of benighted age as far as that goes. So I think there's getting a little speculative here, but when we have individuals in power, then we can sort of say, well, that's a good person and that's a bad person, and we can perhaps not be as taking as much ownership around ethics, right? Whereas now it's like, holy cow, there's this whatever it is coming down the pike that could be controlling us and manipulating us and have its own agenda. And now it's like, well, we better get serious about ethical conduct, all right? Because there can be massive abuse of power and massive dimensions of suffering that get perpetrated in a way that I think we might become more alive to than we are right now. And a lot of us are very alive to all of that's happening in the corridors of power, individually, even in ourselves, and collectively and socially. But I think more and more, we're going to have to do that. So now is the time. Yeah, now is the time to practice that how we manifest the awakened life. So each one of us, it's individual. It's very unique. We each have our own karma. We have our own interests. We have our own pasts, and histories. So, those of us who when we study the precept classes, we just, in addition to the, the Jukai ceremony that's been developing over the last few months, we ran our 3-session precept series this fall, and we had about 15 people, I think, doing and going through the. So some of you in the room here are taking those classes, and maybe we'll see you next year in a Jukai ceremony, perhaps. And in that we study how, some of the precepts are more challenging for me, some are more challenging for you. Very unique. So, how does awakeness manifest in your life, with your past, your history, your karma, your encounters, your relationships, your habits? Right? That's really making the practice your own. We have very clear forms for our practice and very clear lines of inquiry and discernment, whether it's koans or whether it's precepts. Yeah. But each one of us has their own path of practice through that. It's not the same. It doesn't look the same for everybody. So that's why I work with you very intimately and very individually on your own particular path, because I've got the repertoire of things that I've studied in different ways, in different meditative programs, so I can, work with you. And so I invite you to do that, take advantage of that, or really make this path of Zen your own. Yeah. Yeah, can you really feel that? You're doing this practice not in order to become a certain way, but because you are a certain way. Yeah. You are awakened right now. A lot of this practice is not doing something as opposed to doing something. I teach meditation to people who are kind of getting started with it as part of my my coaching, executive coaching that I do. And without fail, after about a month or two, they're like, I thought I had an active mind, but I had no idea. This is terrible. And that's the moment where they can get really discouraged. So I gotta stop doing this is too hard. I'm never gonna quiet this monkey mind down. Yeah. So, but that's part of the process. Yeah, it's part of the process. You see how active it is, but the more you practice, the more you have access to that awakeness that underlies your consciousness even now. And you're able to then maintain it continuously. Then things start to shift. And, instead of seeing yourself as a person who just has an active mind and occasionally has moments of clarity and peace, you actually identify, oh, no, I'm actually very centered, very present, awake being who has these moments of torrent and tumult and reactivity. Okay? Yeah. And more. That sphere rotates, and the identification, the conscious identification, is as that awakeness. Yeah, it's beautiful. It's the same way with the precepts, right? You think you're a good person. You think you follow those precepts pretty well. Oh, yeah, I try not to kill. I'm a vegetarian. I don't lie. No, I wouldn't do that. I really try not to put myself above others. But then when you really study it and you study yourself, you realize how much you're doing it all the time, at subtle layers usually. Subtle forms of lying or untruth, subtle forms of putting yourself up, putting others down, right? I see nods from people who've been in the precept class recently. Yeah, so it's the same. It's the same as, the meditation practice. Like, wow, okay. No, I'm creating a lot of suffering, a lot of discord, separation here, just in my natural being. So, or bodhicitta, that way-seeking mind, just it's encouraged by that. Oh, this is what I need to work on. It's the ego that's discouraged by that. It's like I can't do this. But the way-seeking mind is encouraged because now you know what to work on. You have the path. You have the practice. I am so grateful for this practice. I am so grateful for Shakyamuni Buddha and every practitioner and every teacher, male, female, young and old, over 2,500 years, who practiced this, who brought this alive, and then many of whom have conveyed, their understandings and practices, to us. We have generations of support and encouragement that this is a workable path, a transformative path of practice that affects not only you, but all beings. and very directly the beings who are close to you in your life. Your partner, your kids, your family, your friends, your colleagues. Unquestionably. So, yeah, keep making it your own. Keep making it your own. There might be a little bit of grief even from some as we end Ango. I have some people say that, it's like, this has been awesome. I'm looking, I think one or two of you online actually have said this to me. It's like, really enjoyed Ango. How deep, immersive it is. Yeah. Okay. So let's really put everything into these final 24 hours. Yeah, together. We'll close out Ango tomorrow with a Shuso Hosen ceremony. So our Shuso, Gyodo, who's been leading us for the last 3 months, will give a talk, and then we'll invite all of you to meet him in dialogue, in encounter, in challenge, if you will, in combat, if that's your energy. He'll have to field whatever energy you present to him. And it's always, one of the most lively and invigorating ceremonies, in our lineage. Okay, so we keep going. Thank you.